Hello everyone, welcome to our festive webinar. My name is Louise Richardson. I year personally has changed a lot. I am now used to working from home, neglecting my kids, and being teased by my colleagues about how my house is basically a shrine to Pinterest. Fun fact, I actually built these bookcases myself from a pin. But just as I've acclimatized to the relative quiet of home life, things begin to open up and everything changes again. I'm actually sad to say this is the first week in my little part of South London where the traffic noise is once again louder than the birdsong. So we've all had to adapt really quickly, and of course our industry has also had to adapt. Campaigns that were planned shifted, others paused. Creative that we all thought was locked suddenly looked irrelevant, tone deaf, or even in some cases offensive. As lockdown kicked in, people started using Pinterest in really interesting ways. At first, as you might imagine, they used it to seek comfort. So searching for new home office ideas, inspirational quotes, lunch suggestions, and for many of us, homeschooling tips. As time passed, people started looking forward to looking forward. Pinners started searching for and shopping for sandals for the summer, recipes for cooking in the garden, and most surprising of all to us, searching for Christmas as early as April. Now, when brands start talking about Christmas too early, they might be met with a bit of a consumer eye roll. The usual complaints that Christmas is getting earlier every year. However, at Pinterest, pinner behavior is at the very heart of everything we do. And that behavior is giving us clear signals that Christmas planning is already on consumers' minds. Pinners are planners. And if your branded content is showing up contextually on Pinterest when people are searching for festive ideas in the coming months, then your brand will be in consideration as the festive season approaches. As I said, pinners have always been planners, but this year they are really planning ahead of time. So this is what we're going to be talking about for the next 30 minutes. I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, Amy, who's going to do a deep dive on how best to use Pinterest for your brand, how to activate our advertising products throughout the funnel to ensure your brand is there from planning to purchase. You will then hear from our creative strategist, Mark Carroll, who will be giving you advice on how to make the most inspiring creative for your festive campaign this year. Just a couple of logistical things before we start. We'll be taking your questions at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to type them. There is a box on the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to type any questions in there as we proceed through the session, and we will answer those at the end. At the end, you'll be asked to complete a quick survey, and then we'll be able to download the presentation to share with your teams. Okay, let's get started. So I'm delighted to introduce my colleague, Amy Venner, who is Global Head of Retail Strategy and Marketing here at Pinterest. Over to you, Amy.
That's great. Thank you, Louise. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about the opportunity on Pinterest for getting in front of consumers as they're starting their process. So wanted to share the last 3 months or so, I'm probably not alone in terms of all the differences in our behavior in terms of not just working from home and homeschooling, but also shopping from home. And Mark, if you go to the next slide, one of the things that is very obvious to me as a consumer, but also looking at the broader retail landscape, is that retail has undergone a change. People's behavior has shifted. Now, as we know, there's not a permanent shift necessarily, but there is a shift that's happened and that we have the opportunity to help consumers take advantage of. And so I wanted to share a couple stories around how my family has been using the new digital landscape, there has been while we as consumers have been very comfortable shopping online, the way that we've done it has shifted the last 3 months. So if you go to the next slide, I wanted to talk a little bit about the journey of thinking about your browsing needs and your buying needs, and the opportunity to really impact consumers along that path to purchase. While the journey is similar, there's still the need to, whether it's retail that is essential or non-essential retail, there's still the need for people to buy things. It's both fun, but it's also necessary. But the role each channel plays in that process is changing. And so if you go to the next slide, there's a little more understanding as we kind of evolve to the new normal, that buying no longer is going to be as condensed physically as maybe it once was. Physical stores are reevaluating not only their footprint and how they space out people in checkout, but also reevaluating the way they're using their physical store space, so that perhaps there's an opportunity where the local store is becoming a distribution or warehouse opportunity to put packages and distribute things to consumers from those stores, or the opportunity to go a little more private and schedule appointments. So instead of people coming in to the store to just transact, they're actually there to have a more personalized experience. And I think there's a lot of retailers and brands experimenting with different physical store formats. The buying opportunity has been, from a digital perspective, very focused on obviously making it easy for consumers to transact with the least amount of clicks. And so is there a new way to use digital on the other side of the shopping equation? Because as we all know, shopping is not just buying. Shopping also includes browsing. And so the browsing experience that is part of what we call shopping is also changing. If you go to the next slide, Mark, we do have an opportunity to get in front of consumers digitally in ways that inspire them and help them think about possibilities in their life that maybe they used to do when they were walking down High Street or walking through malls. There's a difference in a physical browsing experience and a digital browsing experience. And I'd argue that as an industry, we haven't done the best job really helping consumers create excitement and merchandise in a more art form. We've perfected the science in terms of how many clicks to buy, but there's huge opportunities for brands and retailers to strike an emotional chord as more and more consumers are shopping and looking for inspiration digitally. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like on Pinterest, as people on the platform, as Luis shared, are engaging with content from brands and retailers at a higher rate than we've seen in the past. So if you go to the next slide, one of the things we've noticed is that there's a need for creating inspiration in people's lives. In fact, that's our mission: bring everyone the inspiration to create a life they love. And we've seen a 60% growth rate year over year in engagement. And a lot of the content that people are looking for has to do with sort of the seasonal moments right now, like being in the backyard, on the patio, getting ideas for working from home, making your space be more inspiring. So people are looking for those ideas. One of the pieces that sort of surprised us in terms of the behavior people were exhibiting at this time, and it started actually in April, was some of the activity around Christmas. And so Mark, if you go to the next slide, here's where we started getting a little more earlier than normal consumer search activity around Christmas. So here's some things around Christmas baking. We saw 5 times growth over April of last year. Christmas decor, we saw 4 times the growth over April of last year. Another example, party outfits. People are searching for ideas that help them get inspired for the upcoming Christmas season. On Pinterest, we already, as Luis shared, have people planning for activities ahead of the sort of normal digital planning cycle. People are looking for ideas that influence their decisions. They don't come to the platform necessarily to connect with friends and family. It's more about the idea of getting opportunities from brands that allow them to make decisions on their purchases before they've decided who they're going to buy from or what they're going to buy. So that requires some early planning. This graph here shows that last year, the dark blue line is an index of search activity that happened on Pinterest, and the lighter green line underneath it is a similar index, but for a leading search engine. And as you can see, there are pops that happen in the summer months. But this year, in 2020, we saw the biggest pop happen in April, where we saw 147% growth rate in some of the Pinterest search terms that are related to Christmas. And so I think this is a huge opportunity for retailers and brands to reevaluate how they get in front of consumers that are in the mode of wanting to get ideas that inspire them, that ultimately influence their purchase. If you go to the next slide, Mark, here's where we wanted to just kind of give you a little more insight into the types of holiday and Christmas activity that consumers are searching for. So as you can imagine, it's their home first. So holiday decor starts early. This is 2019 activity. So again, we were seeing this pop sort of in the August timeframe. This year, again, we saw it a little earlier, but as the season went on, people were looking for ideas around gifting and then creating boards and looking for ideas from brands on food and drink. And it'll be interesting this year to understand the opportunities around hosting and parties and travel, given some of the challenges we saw the last 3 months. But last year, we did see a lot of activity start, and it was consistent on the travel side throughout the whole August, September, October, November, December timeframe. So this is a visual of a consumer's journey that might be searching for something holiday related. And the idea that we want to demonstrate, if you haven't used Pinterest in this way, is that it starts with inspiration and it influences the ultimate decision the consumer is making on the purchase side of the house directly with the retailer. And so imagine a consumer who's searching for Christmas holiday decor. And as they search for that activity, Pinterest brings back visual ideas that are similar. So the results that I'm going to get in my search results is going to be different than the results Mark or Louise get, because the signals that I've provided Pinterest to date give Pinterest the opportunity to pull content that's much more visually relevant. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to some of our solutions. We have some research that we fielded in the UK where we were asking pinners in the UK how Pinterest helped them decide on what products to purchase. And just about 60% said that Pinterest does help them make decisions on what they end up purchasing. And we believe that inspiration in that process matters. The visual, personal experience that inspiring content from brands and retailers provide makes a difference. And it makes a difference in the ultimate purchase. So it matters for shoppers, but it also matters for brands and for retailers. On the next slide, you'll see that the actual money that people are spending, the average spend for someone who's looking for something that's perfect for their need and deliberately looking for inspiration, they're spending 1.2 times more than someone who's just looking to transact. It's a different mindset. It's a mindset brands and retailers can influence. And it's one that's similar to how we've got a whole legacy of merchants and merchandising experts who try to create a more emotional experience to get you to want to pull out your wallet at the end of that. So you're inspiring and creating that spark of inspiration. And as we see in the next slide, that spark of inspiration ultimately creates the opportunity for consumers to consider your brand and make a decision that is impacted by what they did early in the planning cycle. A lot of times in digital, we focus on that last click before converting and give that last click way too much credit, because it's oftentimes more of a navigational element to get to that purchase that they know in their head they're ready to make. But the real time to impact and to influence the consumer is in the time frame before that last click, where they're looking for ideas and they're wanting to be inspired. And on Pinterest, they're looking for brands and retailers as the experts. We did some analysis to understand the correlation between impressions, which are the dark bars, and conversions, which is the line that's above the dark bars. We indexed them so we could understand during Q4 of last year the correlation between impressions and conversions. And the brands that inspired earlier in the season were the ones that converted throughout. There's a strong correlation that connects people who are viewing content to people who are ultimately making purchase decisions and are influenced by that content. In fact, we partnered with Neustar last year in 2019, and the next slide will show you how the path to purchase, when Pinterest was in that path to purchase, what kind of incremental conversions were taking place. And so Neustar as a partner looked across Pinterest, search platforms, other social platforms, and display related purchase journeys. And what Neustar found is that when Pinterest is in the path to purchase, about 25% of the conversions are considered incremental, meaning they wouldn't have happened if that ad wasn't part of that journey. And 25% incremental is higher than any of the other platforms. So we believe that the conversions are not only incremental, but they're powerful because it's helping the person who's getting exposed to those impressions make decisions. I'd like to kind of highlight here, what do you do about this opportunity? As we approach holiday of this year, Christmas of this year, we have the opportunity as brands and retailers to help consumers in that longer cycle of planning. And here's a sample media plan where you can see at the bottom product feeds. Product feeds really take advantage of what your catalog or your product catalog, what kind of products are in there. And I'll talk a little bit more how that works on our platform, but we recommend always having your products available for consumers who are looking for them across the entire time frame. Then obviously, as we start thinking about and launching some of our more inspiring videos, and if you go back just one more slide, I want to highlight a couple of the other activations. We do have different video formats on the platform that do a really great job of helping your brand and your message resonate specifically as you get closer to Christmas, with the opportunity to put messages out there tied directly to Christmas. And then there's lifestyle content that you can bring to life and can partner with your feeds. So you get consumers excited about lifestyle content across gifting, across home decor, and then you give consumers the opportunity to put their products in front of consumers that way. And I'll talk a little bit about that, as well as new shopping formats, and then I'll hand it over to Mark. So 3 steps. Number 1, foundational. Let's start with the foundations. There's 2 foundational pieces to the shopping experience on Pinterest. Number 1, become a verified merchant. We have a verified merchant program, which allows your brand to be verified by Pinterest, which adds a level of credibility to it. There's a couple requirements around the Pinterest tag and around uploading your catalog feed, but I'll talk about the benefits once you do that. So uploading your product catalog feed is fairly simple, and what it does is it gives you a way for all your products to automatically turn into pins. So that's the first thing, foundational. The second thing is, once you are foundationally ready and you have your catalog of products inside the Pinterest ecosystem, now you become eligible for distribution, and Pinterest has many new shopping surfaces that we've been launching the last 6 weeks. And so this is an example of a shop from close-up where you see this inspiring image. It's a lifestyle image, and that we, through some computer vision and machine learning, individually take apart each of the products so that the consumer can pivot from inspiration into action. What are all the retailers that are giving me the opportunity to find a bag that's visually similar to the one I see here that inspires me? So it goes from browsing to the ability to drill into the retailers that offer that, and then ultimately going to the retailer's site to get more information and transact. The other opportunity here is from search, where you can take an image you see on Pinterest or that's on your camera or in real life snapping a picture of something. And you're walking outside and you see something in someone's yard and you're like, wow, I love that landscaping. I love that porch. Take a picture of it, and Pinterest will bring back visually similar content to help you go from inspiration again into the mode of finding it and bring it into your life. And then lastly, you can actually promote the content in your product feed. And that is the next slide, Mark, number 3, where you can use different formats like shopping ads and collections to feature your content and gain greater distribution to audiences that are relevant. And that inspires purchase decisions in ways that allow you to feed and build demand in that path to purchase. So now I'm going to hand it over to Mark to talk a little bit more about the creative activations.
Thanks, Amy. I'm Mark Carroll. I'm part of the Pinterest creative strategy team here in London, and the creative team to help brands of all sizes activate successful content across the platform. And today I'll be discussing just that through the lens of the holiday moment. So you've heard us talk about how people use Pinterest to make inspired decisions, effortlessly pivoting from modes of inspiration and shopping. These pivot points and touch points that shift someone from inspiration to action are most often catalyzed and informed by a piece of creative content from a brand. Because importantly on Pinterest, ads are content. The reason for that, on Pinterest, brands are welcome and your creative comes to life as content. The ads are the content, it is what people are looking for. You are the answer within search to take on that next step in the purchase journey. So how can your brand create content that inspires decisions this holiday season? Aligning yourself to the moments and the content to those moments for what people are searching for is so important. It can help your brand gain up to 10 times higher aided awareness and up to 22% online sales lift. This is why it's so important to make your ad relevant to what pinners are actively looking for. And what we want to think about here is also the mindset of those behaviors. It's not just your typical demographic targeting when it comes to reaching these audiences. You want to think about all the different mindsets, the visuals, the products, the themes that you can be a part of and be relevant to as a brand. So we're going to dive into a few of those mindsets and think about who those pinners are and who you might be planning for and what they're into and where you can be the answer to their search. First up, the early bird. These are exactly who we've been talking about and where this presentation comes from. They're searching already. They'll be the people that probably have their Christmas shopping done before many of us have even got the list started. So there's the opportunity to be there early, be there from now to be the answer for the holiday season and what they're searching for. Then there's the traditionalist. Now these want Christmas to look like it does in the movies. Don't change too much or try to give them any of the contemporary trends like a white Christmas tree. They want to stick with the traditional green and red kind of colorways. So how can you be there for them to make sure that perfect Christmas does look perfect, or even explore ways where maybe you can nudge these guys into a slightly different mindset and embrace change. The decorator. Now, for many of us, it's time for presents, overindulgence and the food, but for many, it's also about the baubles, the tinsel, the lights, a bit more tinsel. So how can you be there for the decorator and really think about the at-home searches and getting into the festive spirit, not just the traditional gifting and purchase cycle there. Similarly, the self-gifter. We see spikes in people looking for self-gifting and a treat through that holiday season. It's not always about the other person, and these people can't get the gift wrong. They know everything about the recipient and exactly what they're looking for. The rookie online shopper. Now, as we've touched on this year, things have changed. For some, online shopping behaviors have changed. they've maybe evolved. For some, it might be the first time altogether shopping online. For others, we might have moved into a new space, such as grocery shopping online. We might have found a new preference in that, and we won't go back to the old offline way of shopping. But importantly, for these shoppers, it needs to be safe, secure, and simple. So really think about how you can guide them through that journey and make that as easy as possible for them. The next level party planner. Now, we all like the good old office party or getting together with friends and family. It's not normally a solid few months of celebrating. It might not be quite the same or look the same this year, but there's still going to be solutions and people looking for inspiration, no matter what those celebratory moments or parties look like. So be there and think about how you can inspire and solve in that space. The shipping first shopper, again, a slightly different mindset in this one. Before the gift comes into mind, maybe they're being a little bit last minute, maybe they're slightly frugal. So really thinking about how you can ease the tension there. How much extra is it going to cost for the shipping? When is it going to arrive? How quickly is it going to get here because I've left it so last minute? All of those kind of things can play a role within the creative, within the messaging, and connecting with an audience in a different way. We're also seeing that smaller moments are getting that bit bigger. In the past years, 4 in 10 said they cared about micro holidays like Friendsgiving and New Year's brunch. So those kind of made up occasions that we might have as a tradition. However, this year, they're saying they'll celebrate those smaller moments even bigger this year and embrace them. So again, how can you be there as part of that? One that always stands out to me, it's a bit too hot to embrace it today for this webinar, but Christmas jumper day, for example. To be relevant and additive to all of these moments that we're talking about, it starts with leveraging our insights. Creative informed by pinner behavior will help the brand establish relevance. Let's pause for a second on some of these specific pieces within here. The most interesting thing about them isn't how deep you can go into baking or decor ideas for the holiday season. That's expected. That's what pinners come to the platform and are always looking for. The really interesting point that we're talking about here is how early this is now happening this year, and it's happening right now, so you could be a part of it. And it is because this season is special. 2020 has been tough. People all over the world have shared with us and shared the fact that holidays will mean more to them than the past years. Not only will they mean more, they will look very different, and pinners are planning earlier to be a part of that and cope with the unknown. So the role for you as brands and the creative opportunity is to inspire the unknown. One of the best things you can do for a pinner is help them navigate this change with ideas. We can't change what's happening, but brands can help pinners react to the unknown and inspired solutions throughout that season. So let's look at another few ways that this can be done with some of the other insights. Now, vegan and vegetarian recipes are popular all year round, but good old Christmas dinner, or maybe even pre-Christmas dinner parties that you might have planned with friends or family. In this case, you can provide inspiration and ideas for an audience. Look what's out there. How can you be additive or maybe even a little bit different within that trend and really stand out with the solution of where we're seeing growth? So 190% year-on-year growth already in vegetarian Christmas dinner main meals. Then there's also looking at the Christmas lights on the house, a huge spike here of 964% that shows that shift of not necessarily just thinking about decorating inside, but moving to the outside of the home. And thinking about the difference in mentality there. We've all been inside a lot this year. Maybe the home is ready for that, but if we're welcoming people in like we really want to and have been wanting to for a long time and been missing, how does the outside look? And are we starting to think more about that outside than previous years past? But then good old traditions like the Xmas Day outfit ideas. It's already the 271% spike year on year in that world. So really thinking about how you can be there as a solution and flip your messaging, or even be there that slight bit earlier with intent on Pinterest versus when you might be planning to roll out within other channels. And as Amy touched on earlier, one final note here, we know more people will be doing holiday shopping online more than ever, and traditional e-com is focused on that lower funnel transaction, or as Amy mentioned, the buying phase of shopping. And we might miss that in-store experience, that slightly more experiential element that sometimes comes around on the Christmas high street through the decoration and the windows. So how can you bring more immersive experiences, more experiential style experiences online for that shopping experience? What you're seeing here is a pin extension. So in our native web browser, you'll go directly from the pin to an immersive experience here. So able to actually look around and shop for gifts and then move through to checkout within there. So how to inspire the holiday decisions? Really align to the moments. Moments really do matter across Pinterest. The more you can lean into those, the better you will see those results. Fuel your creative with our insights, whether that be on the macro or the micro level, to start shaping that creative, and make sure that you're there to inspire in the unknown and give that extra comfort through the holiday season as things change. Now, back over to Lou.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks, Amy, as well, for sharing all of those insights and creative tips today. We've got a couple of questions that have been coming in through the chat. So anybody who's on the line, definitely now is the time if you've got any burning questions. The first one that I thought we could answer is Pinterest going to invest in visual search? And if so, what is the future of visual search? Amy?
Yes. So the answer is yes, yes, and yes. Pinterest has been investing in visual search. There's a huge area of investment in the industry overall where, as you know, being in digital, it seemed as if the industry started with probably the least intuitive problem, meaning focusing on text. So if you think about search activity, we started with text-based searching. Text-based searching is what we know as SEM, search engine marketing. The industry has gone down a path of perfect optimization. We've perfected that. Along comes audio. I would say it's our second most natural way of shopping is with our voice. And that is where it's at today. And it continues to become useful in different ways and different consumer paths of purchase. I would say the most intuitive is the least developed as an industry, which is visual. And that's how you path through a physical store experience. You look with your eyes, you walk through. Digitally, visual search is the most infant. And I would say, and of course I work at Pinterest, but we have really invested early on in this. And I think you'll see it as you use Pinterest, and as a brand, there's a huge opportunity to influence consumers. Thinking about sort of, you know, Spotify and how Spotify helps you find similar music through the sounds. Pinterest is doing that for shopping, where you see something you like that grabs your eye and you see it, you click on it, you save it, you click through to the retailer's site. Those are signals we use so that we understand what your style, your preferences are, and then your home feed and your search results become more tuned to what is aesthetically similar to your taste. And so we believe that through the use of computer vision and machine learning, we're making connections so that retailers' products can get in front of consumers in ways that are much more stylistically similar and increase conversion rates.
Thank you, Amy. This next one, I think we've got time for one more. This next one is, I think, for Mark. Mark, how important, or do I need to create an asset for Pinterest from scratch?
I think, like all platforms, if you can embrace and go all in, bespoke creative, you know, you will see great stuff from that. But at the same time, as Amy touched on, even something as functional as like product catalog image and then everything in between of repurposing assets. And that doesn't just mean social assets and digital assets. Think about like the beautiful crafted out of home imagery That's the kind of thing that, again, bought into Pinterest can be really easy ways to repurpose what you've got to quickly get on the platform. But I would say, all the way down from product catalog imagery, all the way through up to bespoke, there's a role and success seen in all of those. So don't feel you have to over-engineer it. I think it's super accessible, and hopefully any challenges, reach out to the team. We're happy to talk.
Thank you. So we're going to close at this point. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us today, especially given that I'm sure we would all rather be in a park with a glass of rosé at this point. So we hope that you've enjoyed the content, and hopefully that's going to help you as a brand look forward to looking forward again, just like Pinterest. Please remember to take the survey at the end. Once you do, you'll be able to download the presentation we ran through today. And obviously, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your Pinterest contacts, and we'll be really, really happy to answer those. And let me be, I hope, the first person to wish Merry Christmas to everyone on the call.